Good evening, everyone. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing while our Councilman at Large, Ms. Sarah, leads us in prayer.
Loving God, watch down over these proceedings tonight. Help us to focus on the solutions and not just the problems. Help us to see the value that each and every person brings to the table. Instill in us the wisdom to understand the difference between being right and doing things right. And let our actions always provide a sense of hope and prosperity for our community. Amen.
If I could ask you to remain standing for a moment of silence. We lost two individuals in our community recently. First, John Van Fossen. John was a member of our planning board and zoning board, World War II veteran, and very well known to everyone in the community. Also, Catherine Brecher, Andy Simpson's mother-in-law, and our thoughts, Catherine has been a resident of the island for over 50 years. And certainly our thoughts and prayers go out to Linda and the Brecher family. If you have a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Does it sit in Jersey?
To advise that meeting notices covering this meeting have been sent and posted as required under the Open Public Meetings Act. We began the executive part of our meeting at 5 o'clock, and as we always do, our solicitor will comment on the topics that were discussed in the executive session. Mr. Cerny?
Thank you, Mayor. The Mayor and City Council discussed two matters relating to potential litigation. Specifically, they discussed the fact that the New Jersey Supreme Court recently made a decision in regard to the application of the Fair Housing Act. That decision now requires that certain communities file in Superior Court of New Jersey for a declaration dealing with their COA plans. The Mayor and City Council has authorized my firm to file an appropriate action with the Superior Court in that matter. In regard to the Fair Housing Act, Council and Mayor also discussed the potential appointment of a consultant to deal with issues arising under that act. Additional information will be made available to the public this evening when Council considers Resolution 2015-72. Another potential matter of litigation dealt with certain properties where individuals are concerned about the installation of bulkheads. Mayor and Council directed the manager to review that matter further and to review the appropriate ordinances to see if there is any reason to amend ordinances that would provide some relief in that matter. Additional information will be made available in this matter when that review of ordinances is complete by the manager. That is anticipated to be approximately 45 to 60 days from now. In regard to contract matters, the Mayor and City Council discussed the potential retaining of ice cream vendors on the beach this summer. The manager advised that background checks will be done, including fingerprints, and those background checks will be reviewed by the Brigantine Police Department. In matters of personnel, the manager provided certain information in regard to the Department of Public Works. He indicated that employee Mike Morgan has retired and that a new employee, Joe Mangoya, has become a full-time employee. In regard to other personnel matters, there are a series of appointments that are necessary. These appointments deal with the Beach Committee, the Clean Community Committee, the Planning Board, and the Economic Development Committee. Additional information in regard to these appointments will be made available this evening as Council considers those appointments.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, a change to the agenda, I guess, or a correction. We had a resolution for a person-to-person transfer of liquor license that was on the published agenda, but somehow did not get onto this printed agenda that some of us have. Lynn, where would you like to place that, and what's the resolution number?
If you want to do it now.
Well, why don't we put it at the beginning of our resolutions, but
I mean, after the public comment.
After public comment?
yes, right after public comment, so, and you'll give me a resolution number for that?
It will be 74, 2015-74.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I guess we need a resolution to return from executive session, even though we've already done that. So, can we have a motion and a second?
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next is the approval of the council meeting minutes of 10/1/14, the executive session minutes of 3/18/15. Can we have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
You?
Abstain on 10-1 of 14, and yes on 3/18 of 15.
McClay?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Sarah?
Abstain on 10-1, yes on 3-4.
Simpson?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next, we move the approval of requisition list, operating expenses, and payroll. Could we have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
McClay?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Simpson?
I need to abstain on vendor K1649, Kenny's Auto Repair, and yes on all the rest.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, at this time, I'll open the meeting for public comment on agenda items only. So if anyone would like to comment on any agenda items, please step forward. Use the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Mr. Pucci.
John Pucci, 100 Sheridan Square. Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
Good evening, John.
I just had number 8, establishing an economic development, tourism, and special events advisory committee. As I mentioned before, I support this 100%. I think it's great that this council is forming this committee. I think it's very timely going into the summer, and I think it's going to help specifically the businesses, but also the residents plan and bring more businesses and events to the town. So I support it 100%. There's one thing in the resolution that I read where it mentions resident or taxpayer being appointed to the committee. I know there's been some question. I think the city manager has dealt with it last year, specifically during the election time. Does that need to be defined any more than what it is? In other words, the difference between part-timers, resident, is it either or is it sufficient not to have to go over something later on? That's all I'm suggesting.
Thank you, John.
On that one. And then secondly, Mayor, now that it is on the agenda, I'd just like the transfer of the liquor license. I'd just like to mention that everybody that I know is talking about the Cove reopening, and also who is involved in reopening that building. And there's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement about the specific people that are coming to the island, and that building is opening again and being an asset to Brigantine. So I just wanted to mention that everybody I know is talking about it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Okay, any other comment? Cheryl, did you?
Cheryl Micholi, 3312 Oden Avenue. I wanted to comment on number 22 on the agenda about the the yard sale, the community yard sale. I had spoke with Ed and I had sent a letter, and the Brigantine Green Team would like to sponsor and be the lead organization for the community yard sale, which typically happens every year, where you waive the fee, and it happens, I guess, Memorial Day weekend. You waive the $15 fee, and anybody in the community could have a yard sale. And in the past, I believe the chamber had helped a little bit to promote it, but it's our understanding that they don't want to do it any longer. So we as the Green Team would like to sponsor it. It would be an action item under Sustainable Jersey, and we plan to create a virtual map with pins so that anybody who wants to participate, you can email this address that we created, and you can get your residence placed on the map. And one of our Green Team members is actually a map specialist. This is what she does for a living, so it'll be very professional looking. And I have all the information. We're going to put it in the paper. There's going to be a deadline, like May 17th. You'll have to have that in. So that's all I wanted to say.
Cheryl, do we already have the website? Is it up?
It's up. It is, well, it's
Or
not a
the email,
website.
the email?
It's brigyardsale2015@gmail.com. If you guys approve us being sponsored. If
I'll
not,
write
we'll
it
just
down.
delete the email. But yeah, so we would like to be able to help with that, if that is possible.
Sounds like a great idea. It's the great transfer of stuff from
Yes, it
someone's
is
garage to
upcycling.
someone else's garage, which is...
Exactly. That promotes upcycling, reuse, and it just keeps things out of the landfill, so.
Will this be for the 3 days? Like, the chamber always had it for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Would that be the same?
That's what I put Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, but we could change
Or
that.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, yeah, that'll be good, okay.
That's what I had put in the
Okay.
letter in the request.
And that's for Memorial Day weekend. so,
That's
yeah.
Memorial, which is a very busy
Yeah.
weekend, as we know.
And the request is that council waive the
Right.
fee for the yard sale. And so this was on the agenda, or is on the agenda for council manager discussion, but put on the first
Oh, I'm
agenda that
sorry.
went out.
Oh, so it's
So-
not, does not count for public comment then?
That's okay.
It's
Oh, I'm
fine.
sorry.
I
is
think we
fine.
did it.
It's fine.
Okay.
Thank you,
Everybody
Cheryl.
on council,
Thank you.
ignore what she just said.
Cheryl, real quick, when council approves this, what kind of information do you want people to send to that email
All
address?
they would have to do is just send their address to the email address
Okay.
by May 17th. It's Sunday, May 17th at the end of the day. If you know you're going to be participating early, even if it's just one day, send it as soon as possible, because Denise is going to be setting up the map and everything as soon as she can. So she'll do a lot of legwork beforehand, and she doesn't want to put Sunday night or Monday having to put 100 addresses down, just to kind of create a little bit more time for her. So they would have to send their address and
Confirm that email address, brigyardsale2015@gmail.
@gmail.com. And, this is a volunteer thing we're doing, so for some reason, if your address, didn't make it on, or if you sent it after the deadline, we can't, hold harmless, or whatever those technical terms are.
It's free.
Is that-
And the virtual map's going to be posted somewhere.
Oh, it's going to be posted on the Green Team website, and if anybody wants to print the map on their own, they can. I know a lot of other communities distribute them at businesses throughout the community, so that when people come on island, they're usually, they get a cup of coffee, they're looking for a map. That's generally what we've heard in the past of this, especially in Brigantine back by the golf course area. So if businesses want to do that, and they want to print them out and put them at their business, that would be great. They could do that. We would appreciate it. Otherwise, it's just going to be on our website. And we're going to put it in the paper too, promoting that this is where you can find the map.
Great.
And is there a way to link that to, I know Brigantine Beach Chamber of Commerce has an app online.
Oh,
Is there
yeah,
a way to link
I'll
it to
share
that?
it with, well, I don't know that,
I
but I
mean-
was going to share it with the chamber.
I don't know if there was a way to do that, or...
Mike, do you want to comment for the chamber?
Thank you.
Mark Brennan, President Brigantine Chamber of Commerce, 1113 Bay Shore. I think there's some misconceptions. The yard sale was never a chamber item. We simply advertised it and the city waive fees. We are here for any organization, anything that's good for the city. We're here to promote it. That's our charge. I believe in our charter that, you know, anything that's good for business, anything that promotes the city, anything that helps Brigantine become a better Brigantine, we're here for that. We really did nothing other than advertise that yard sale. It was basically that simple. And the city waived the fees. You're taking it to a new level. No, I want to graduate. This is what we want.
Yeah.
This is exactly the type of people that the Brigantine Chamber wants involved in this community and taking it to a new level. I welcome you to, if you can create a virtual map and make it so that it can go on our new app, you will have yard sale people, millenniums. I think that's who uses it.
Sure.
I'm just learning that you tweet on Twitter and you don't Twitter on tweet. So if we can get it on our app, we're happy to put that on there. We want you to take the lead. Absolutely. I mean, it's youth, bringing youth into this city and new leadership, and we're happy to do anything we can to do that. It was never, you know, people say the chamber, but it wasn't a chamber. We were simply advertising. But if you can take that to a new level, we are 100% behind you. We're happy for you to take the lead. And if we can assist you in any way, manner, or form with labor, sorry, I did turn this off. It's Mike Snyder Sr. We're happy to assist you. And anything you need, we're there. That's our role in the city. You know, we're not trying to take the lead on everything. We're not handing anything off. There was nothing to hand off. It's simply a yard sale. But that's great if you guys can do and electronically get that. We'll get that on that app, and people will follow that map around with their iPhones or Droids. So,
Thank you, Mike.
okay.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean any.
That's okay.
That was not my intent, and all we were gonna do was advertise it, so, thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Public Works will have some extra containers down at the recycling yard for anything it doesn't sell.
The aftermath.
For the aftermath, and those 8 tracks or anything else you need to get rid of. Okay. Anyone else on the agenda items? Public comment. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion. We're going to move to our first resolution, which is Resolution 2015-74. It is a person-to-person transfer of a plenary retail consumption license 010333004015, issued to John Schurig for the premises located at 3700 Brigantine Boulevard. And it will approve, effective April 1st, 2015, the transfer of the aforesaid plenary retail consumption license to John Schurig and Montgomery Dom, and will effectuate that transfer. Can we have a motion, a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have one. Jack, is this anything to do with Mike Snyder? No. Thank you.
Chief, I know that I know you've done the investigation. Everything is in order?
Yes, Sergeant Wozak was assigned to conduct an investigation, so if you have any questions, you can direct them to him.
So it's, the recommendation, obviously, because it's on our agenda, is to approve?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no objections to the license, Mayor. Everything was, came back good with their backgrounds. They were both cooperative throughout the process. I recommend they be allowed to possess the license.
Thank you, Sergeant. Okay. Any further discussion by council? Okay, seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
Hill? Yes. McLeod?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Simpson?
I just want to clarify myself with the Mike Snyder thing. It's not anything against Mike. I just had to know if it was part of the license or not. If he was part of the license, I would have to abstain from this vote, but since he's not part of the license, I say yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And I would like to introduce Jack Shurg and Monty Dom. And if you want to come up, gentlemen, and your management team I know is here to talk, to give us an update on the Cove. As was said earlier, people in the community are very excited about a new business opening, and the fact that you have reached out to do a job fair that's already taken place in Brigantine to hire between 50 and 70 individuals. Many of them may have already been displaced from jobs in the casino industry. I think speaks volumes about how you want to be part of this community. And I want to thank you for that, and also thank you for resurrecting a business at the entrance to our island, which obviously we want all of our businesses to be successful, but when you have one that is not open at the entrance to the island, I think it sets the wrong tone. So congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. I'm Montgomery Dom, and we actually had about 350 people apply for jobs yesterday and the day before.
Wow.
Probably 90%, I would believe.
80 to 90% from the island.
And I think we're going to end up probably hiring about 75% of those from Brigantine residents. So it was a great, great turnout.
All right, my name's Rob Roski. I'm going to be the general manager here. I'm very happy to be part of this community, very happy to be building business in this area. I myself was displaced through the casino closings, and I think we have a great opportunity here to be involved within this community to help grow, diversify the local economy, and do something really magical.
Thank you, Rob.
For those that don't know me, I'm Jack Shurg. I've been coming here since I was 7, and I've been sort of a quiet person in town, but have been involved in a lot of projects. And I'm really looking forward to this. But thank you.
Thank you. Do we have an opening date?
Probably towards the end of April.
End of April.
We're working on it.
Keep on moving that
Yeah.
one.
Our chef is Chef Michael Williams, who was the former executive chef at Izakaya and the former executive chef of Centrell at Rebel. And he's a real first-class guy. He's not here tonight, but we're trying to get people from off the island to come, not just people on the island. So that's our objective. And Rob was muscle bar. He was a beverage manager for all 9 of their restaurants. So we're surrounding ourselves with the best people as well.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to it, and I know you're going to have a great summer.
And thank you for your support as well, all of you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care. Okay, we have ordinance number 5, which is the public hearing and adoption of the Economic Development, Tourism, and Special Events Advisory Committee. Could we have a motion and a second, please?
So move.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Lynn will sort that out.
Somewhere.
Okay. With that said, I'm going to open the meeting for the public hearing on this ordinance, ordinance number 5 of 2015. Anyone who would like to speak on ordinance number 5? Yes, Mrs. Phillips.
Ann H. Phillips, 308 27th Street. I looked through the ordinance on the computer and saw that one of its purposes is to market and promote business on the island. My question to you is, what financial resources will the committee have to do that?
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. I think that is to be determined. There are a number of resources that are available. Some of them are grant funds that can be through the state. There are tourism grants that through a joint effort with the chamber we hope to apply for this year. And the other is that there are ways to attach a small fee to rental registration properties to be used for tourism. We've done that in the past. It's been successful. We changed it in our fee structure, but that's something that council could consider going forward. And also the efforts would be in collaboration with the chamber. As you know, they have raised funds on their own from their membership and from their fundraising efforts. So hopefully we can put all those resources together to market our community, because we are, without a doubt, I think poised to make a very strong recovery, and other shore communities are marketing in different areas. So I think it's time that we step up those efforts on Brigantine's part. Any other comments? Yes, John?
John Livesey, 203 9th Street North, and I just want to applaud this effort to form this committee. I think as we step forward in the future here with the closing of the casinos, we as a community have to get more event-driven, and those events have to correlate with the local businesses. And I think this type of committee can help spearfront that to project us into the future and make us a more of a tourism resort type area where we can all work together to make this really a paramount place to come to. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And also, I should mention, in response to Mrs. Phillips' question as well, that mercantile licenses as well, part of that can be used to fund that. Any other public comment on the Economic Development, Tourism, and Special Events Committee? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion. And we've had a motion and a second. Are there any council comments?
You want to go first?
Okay, see.
Yeah, I have just a general question, I guess. We've had an Economic Development Committee for quite some time, right?
Yes, we have.
And as I read the ordinance in front of us, it would change the number of members and make some subtle changes to the mix of the membership, but what is it that this new structure gives us substantively that we couldn't accomplish through the existing?
A couple of things. This is a more formalized committee that will have a charge along with the efforts that are going on, first at the county level, to look at the county's plan and to see how Brigantine can mesh with the county's plan, take advantage of some opportunities that the county is developing. Secondly, to develop an economic development plan for Brigantine and use some of the planning funds that are already there post-Sandy to be involved in that effort, and to also work with the business community and for those who are coming in with potential special events, to look at those events ahead of time to make sure that they are adequately planned and supported and meet some criteria, and that is it of a recreational benefit? Is it of a economic development benefit to the city of Brigantine? What are the costs to the city of Brigantine? And overall, how do our residents and visitors benefit from having that event take place? So those things need to happen, and as you know, Rick, no action would be taken in the committee. It would come before council, but there would be a lot of preliminary discussion with people coming in to do special events ahead of time. On the committee, we also see our department heads being involved, and of course our city manager being involved as ex officio members, but actively working with the committee. And quite frankly, when you have a committee that had, I don't know, a membership of about 14 members, it's very difficult to get a quorum and to have any consistency going forward, especially in a planning endeavor, because there are times when there are different members of that committee sitting in front of you every time you have a meeting. This committee would hold their meetings in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, and they would be public meetings that anyone can attend. And even though the number of members of this committee is reducing, people who were part of the other Economic Development Committee are more than welcome to come and participate in the meetings, but you have to have a voting nucleus so you can move these issues forward.
Well, all the things you describe are certainly reasonable undertakings for any economic development committee, but there's really no reason why all of that couldn't be accomplished or couldn't have been accomplished through a simple restructuring, if you wanted, of the existing economic development. I mean, I just don't want the public to have the misimpression that this is something brand new and that for all these years up till this point, you know, we had nothing approaching an economic development committee. You know, if it was unwieldy because there was too many people, or if people weren't showing up, or whatever the problems were, I don't recall in my time here that anyone brought that up or made efforts to correct it. So it kind of feels at some level like what we're accomplishing is simply washing out the people who were appointed not very long ago to be on this committee, to be restocked with not sure who.
Rick, if you look at committees that are functioning in other areas, this number is pretty consistent with what other communities are doing, as well as I mentioned, we have some economic development challenges and some opportunities now. So to formalize this process and to have a product at the end of the day is what the goal is. Should also mention that we have a $750,000 streetscaping grant in the Central Business District. One of our first goals will be to have an economic development summit. We'll bring the resources from the state down to talk to present business owners as well as individuals who are interested in operating businesses in Brigantine that don't exist right now. And we also know that we have a challenge of a lot of vacant commercial property right now. So this is a more focused endeavor, not disparaging the efforts in the past. In fact, I was the individual who asked for an economic development committee when it originated many years ago, but I think we need to refine it. And the other issue we're dealing with is the special events. We need to somehow move those into a more formal process before they get to council, and they need to be planned way in advance so they can be successful. We need to develop a calendar and have those events established, probably a calendar that will stretch into the summer that probably should be developed by January, February, so that individuals coming down, if they want to rent a property in Brigantine, will know what is going on, and our residents can plan their events accordingly. We have some great events coming this summer. Some of them are new, and I don't think the process that we're talking about would be an unwieldy process for anyone to go through. It's just a matter of getting some information up front before it gets to council.
My feelings is, I mean, we have an economic development committee in our city code as it is, and we're reducing the members, we're increasing their term. Are you going to have anything in place for the members if they don't show? Now you have them for 3 years. You're going to have an absentee policy, because if you want to get the work done, you're going to need attendance of your voting members.
Don't think this ordinance speaks to an absentee policy, but if someone isn't showing, they need to be replaced.
I'm also disappointed that we just newly appointed people to our Economic Development Committee, and now we're abolishing the old one and bringing in a new one. And it says in Section 3, Paragraph A, that all appointed by City Council, but unfortunately that's not the case. I made a recommendation, and apparently the list has already been prepared. Selections have already been made for the new committee, so I'm a little disappointed there. I'm glad you're bringing back the Tourism Committee, because I believe that was abolished a few years ago. I mean, we need something like this. I just, you know, the way it's all falling into place like now, I'm a little disappointed about how the selection of members has come about, because I had no say in it.
Mr. Pucci.
Are we back in public portion on this?
I'm sorry, you're right, we're still in the council part. We already had the public hearing part on this, so.
Is that completed?
Yeah, that's completed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other council comments?
I just like the fact that you're including tourism and special events in this, because we've become such, over the past few years, everything has been so negative, the last 4 or 5 years, about the island. Hopefully this committee will promote the island right along with the way the chamber has been doing also. So I like the way tourism and special events has been included.
Okay, any other council comments? Okay, want to make it very clear that selection for members of this committee is the same as selection for members of any other committee, and that is that council meets in executive session, puts forward some names, and discusses those names. Now, whether the majority agrees on a certain name, or it is not a process that requires a unanimous consensus before a committee is appointed. But it is the same process that's been used to appoint planning board members, zoning board members, every other member of a committee here in Brigantine. In fact, I think when you look at some of the committees, including some of the new committees, we're pretty much just given a list of anybody who would like, these people want to join the committee, and if someone has particular knowledge about that particular committee, then we move forward.
Well, that's not true. We advertise on Channel 97 and on the city website if anybody wants to be a part of the committee, and then they contact us, and that's how we comprise the list. I don't know if you did that.
I don't believe we did.
Okay.
And Phil, so it's clear, and what Councilwoman McClay is talking about is, we're all perfectly aware that any time an appointment of any kind comes before council, the majority will appoint. But the issue is, again, as Councilwoman's pointed out, historically, at least in the recent past, we have had an outreach for people to identify themselves. I understand that individual council people will be approached by members of the public, or we may have somebody in mind, but the concern that she has and that I share is when we get to the point, as we are tonight, where this is about to be voted on to be created, are we then going to move immediately into staffing it or to populating it? And if we are, that to me is a problem, because we haven't done any formal outreach to the public saying, this is a committee, it's going to have X number of people, so many from the public. If you're interested, identify yourself, and then let council pick from that list. It certainly feels like there is a list which has been compiled, but it's certainly not been compiled with any input from me or Councilwoman McClay.
There were some recommendations made in executive session that all members of council had a chance to react to.
Phil, that was about an hour and a half ago.
Right. And along with that, if you had a recommendation for the committee, you certainly could have brought it forward at that time. But several members of this committee were members of the former Economic Development Committee as well.
Right, all of which, however, misses the point. The point not being that I had the opportunity an hour and a half ago, if I knew somebody to be on the committee, to put that name out there. The point being, we should be reaching out to the public at large. There are so many people in this town who might, and we don't know unless they came to us and told us, or unless they were on the committee before, who might be interested and who might have a lot to offer this committee. But we will never know those people because we apparently are ready to populate the committee based just on those names which either occurred to us or people who happen to identify themselves to us informally. That to me that's a very foolish approach.
I think one of my concerns too, as I look at this going forward, I know that this issue was discussed at the last council meeting. I also know that this item was on the agenda. And I've kind of learned that in order to kind of keep up with things going, when I see things come up, I start to think about names. I start to think about how I can approach things going forward. And one of my criticisms of this council is that oftentimes we wait too long in order to make decisions. And a lot of times it's for good intentions. A lot of times we want to take our time and make sure that we do things right. But I worry that with the summer season coming up, that if we take too long to move forward on an issue, we're going to miss out on opportunities. And I know there's been opportunities that it would be very, very good for the city that we've missed out on because we took too long to make a decision. So I look at where we are. I know this was mentioned. I know it was out publicly. I was unaware that there is a process of putting it on Channel 99. That I did not know. But I know as soon as I see an opportunity that comes up, I start to try to think about how we can move Brigantine forward. So this didn't come to me as a surprise to me. But I do respect your position. I do.
I appreciate you saying that. It's not a question of surprise, and I'm not suggesting it was. I certainly am aware of what's on our agendas, and I was aware that this was on tonight's agenda. But it's not about me. It's about the people who are out there whom we don't know because they haven't yet come to us, and who maybe don't follow our council meetings, who nonetheless could be good candidates to be on a committee of this type. And these are the people who I don't know who they are, if they are, how many they are, but because we haven't made any official or public effort to reach out to them, we will probably never know, especially if our plan is to go ahead tonight and appoint people. So that's my criticism of it. And again,
Well,
not a suggestion of
duly
surprise.
noted, Rick. Thank you.
I'm sorry, am I done, Phil? Am I not allowed to speak any further?
No, I just wanted to make sure that I indicated to you that I understood what your criticism was, but you were also aware of who the members of the committee were discussed, and I think, you know, once again, their qualifications for this position are outstanding as they are volunteers. I think they're willing to step forward and help their city, so I would like to move forward. Summer's here. We've already had an issue relating to whether or not we're going to do the four-wheel drive parade. I met Deputy Mayor Simpson and I met with Mike Brennan from the Chamber of Commerce yesterday just to see what they're feeling, and Rip Reynolds from the Chamber, what they're feeling about this event is. And you know, we have people asking. These things are pushing the calendar right now, and also want to get things moving before summer starts. So once again, anyone can come to these meetings. It's open. We want their input. Certainly encourage them to come, and we'll be holding open public meetings so individuals can come and express their opinions. Any other council comments on this ordinance number 5 of 2015? Okay, seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
McClay?
Abstain.
DeLucre?
No, I don't think this is necessary. I think there was a better way to go about it, and particularly, I'm opposed to this, given that we are apparently being told that there's going to be a vote tonight to figure out who's going to be on this, and I had heard nothing about any of these names until tonight. That's part of what I'm seeing more and more, and it's a very disturbing trend to me, where important issues that should be brought to the entire council are apparently being decided by smaller subgroups of council and brought to this council as a fait accompli, a done deal, and that's not the way this council should operate.
Sounds like the Public Safety Director.
Sarah?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next is ordinance number 6 of 2015, amending the salary ordinance. Can we have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the meeting for the public hearing on ordinance number 6 of 2015. If you would like to address council, please step forward, state your name and address, and please use the microphone, and keep in mind that we have a 5-minute limit. Yes, Mrs. Phillips.
Ann H. Phillips, 308 27th Street. The Taxpayers Association has two problems with this ordinance. First, we don't think that you have proven your case for a full-time chief financial officer. I think you know that it was the previous auditor who noted in his report that the city didn't have and hadn't had a general ledger, but it did have a full-time chief financial officer at that time. The general ledger obviously is something we're supposed to have. There might be problems in the accounting system which need to be addressed, but we don't think they rise to the effect that the necessity for having a full-time chief financial officer. Second, a maximum salary limit in the ordinance seems meaningless, and we've had this come up before, and we have addressed this issue before. You have minimum and maximum in salary ordinance. However, when, whatever the occasion, there seems to be whatever comes up, that maximum can just be disregarded. I think that's what's happening here. This ordinance raises that limit from $80,000 to $110,000 for a full-time chief financial officer. That's not the way a maximum level should work. It's too much spending, and I think it's deceptive to the taxpayers. You have minimum, maximum, you should observe them, and I think you need to look at the accounting system in more detail to see perhaps what needs to be addressed, but I don't think the taxpayers should have the expense of a full-time chief financial officer at a salary of $110,000. So we reject, or we do not believe this amendment should be passed. Excuse me, ordinance should be passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Mr. Stinson?
Thank you, Mayor. With regards to the question of part-time CFO versus full-time CFO, I can tell you my recommendation very strongly is that the part-time CFO is not working. I recommend a full-time CFO. I have also spoken to the current CFO to solicit her opinion with regards to whether this is a full-time position or a part-time position. She informed me that it is a full-time position. It requires a full-time CFO. And in fact, she stated that she was hired on interim basis while Jennifer searched for a full-time CFO. So apparently it was also based on that, Jennifer's opinion, that it should be a full-time CFO. Our auditor, likewise, strongly recommends or advises that this should be a full-time position, that the part-time position is not working. This is not a criticism, certainly of that person, nor of the administration's attempt to save money by going with part-time CFO. It was a good try. It was a nice effort to save money, but it is not working. That's my recommendation. That's our auditor's recommendation. That's our current CFO's recommendation. And I would argue that it is our last year's auditor's recommendation as well. And I say that based on his letter from February of this year, responding to the state's review of the audit, stating that the failure to file timely rests solely with the city of Brigantine and their failure to provide sufficient documentation of expenditures on a timely basis. So again, it is not a criticism. It's simply recognizing that that part-time position is not working here, and we need to go with a full-time position.
Thank you, Mr. Stinson.
Ed, may I ask you a question? The quote you just read, that was from a letter from the auditor?
That was a letter from Bowman and Company in February responding to the state's review of the audit. So it was the state's review of the audit stating that it was filed a month and a half late last year.
Could I have a look at that?
You have a copy of it, Rick?
I don't have it with me.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Mr. Pucci?
Members of council, I fully support a full-time CFO position. It's my understanding that there were auditor charges that this council approved back in February to go over the books, to file the yearly financial statement to the state, and having a full-time CFO, in that respect, I believe that there's auditor savings, charges savings, having somebody in-house, having a full handle on it, so when he does come in to do the audit, that all the books are prepared properly. So there's a savings. This isn't just a cost associated with the salary guide. A full-time CFO, I believe there's a savings. And it's my understanding that this is the first time that Brigantine was late in filing their financial report to the state. Correct me if I'm wrong, but certainly in a lot of years. As a taxpayer and a resident, it doesn't sound good to me. You need to do what you have to do to have the professionals in this building, the amount of time that's required to properly account for the $50 million that travel through those doors every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pucci.
All right, if I could follow up then.
Rick, do you want to wait until we get back in the, let me have the public talk, and then you can ask Ed when we get into council discussion?
Fine.
Any other public participation in the hearing? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion. At this time, we'll have council discussion.
All right. To follow up with my question to Ed a moment ago, and I think it needs saying because there's been, I believe, some lack of clarity about the substance of the letter from Bowman and Company dated February 6th. The letter states, we accept the division's finding number 1 as noted on Exhibit A, that the report of audit was not filed until August 6, 2014, and this relates, of course, to the 2013 audit. Goes on to say, the failure to file timely rests solely with the City of Brigantine and their failure to provide sufficient documentation regarding the FEMA Superstorm Sandy expenditures on a timely basis. That seems to me to be very specific, talking about a failure regarding the element of FEMA Superstorm Sandy expenditures. So I mentioned that that doesn't color my opinion one way or the other as to whether we should have a full-time CFO, but I think it's important to note that the failure identified by the auditor in this letter is specific to 2013 and to the FEMA Superstorm Sandy expenditures, which, as we all know, was a constantly changing and evolving situation back then. So that's, to my thinking, qualitatively different than saying that it was simply a blanket failure on the part of Brigantine to file. There's a very specific cause identified by the auditor and very limited scope of his criticism.
Rick, the Superstorm Sandy expenditures were costs to the city that were related to Superstorm Sandy. We weren't talking about reimbursements. We're asking what we spent. So, you know, we should know what we spent and how much and what we spent it on. But, you know, I want to go back to this topic of the general ledger because that seems to come up very often. The former chief financial officer had a method of keeping a ledger so that he could have a running balance of all of the accounts in the city of Brigantine. He did it in Excel. When we switched auditors and the chief financial officer moved to a different position, there was an opinion that it should be kept in the admin system, and that would be the general ledger of the city. We had almost 2 years with a part-time CFO and under a former city manager to have that general ledger established. In fact, we were told at one point that it was 80% in place. This council knows, because they received the analysis done by the auditor, the present auditor, that there were problems with the accounting of funds. Not that anything nefarious was going on, not that anything was missing, just where those accounts were posted. So we have evidence that what we had in place was not working. And I agree with Ed Stinson's analysis as well, and that is it wasn't the fault of any individual or someone it's a structural defect. You can't do in one day what needs to be done for the amount of activity that the city of Brigantine has. And when you look at the staffing in that department, you have one individual who does personnel and payroll. You have another individual who is a comptroller, and that's it. So you're accounting for $50 million in funds. You need to have oversight and you need to have the proper staffing. And I'm confident that if you have the right type of information to give to your manager throughout the year, and it's accurate and it's up to date, that's a management tool that will be used to save money in the long run. When you're able to see how accounts are performing, you're able to analyze spending, you're able to analyze overtime, those things are extremely important for a manager to do his or her job. I don't see the issue of having a full-time CFO as being or having a part-time CFO as an option right now. We know the part-time CFO with our present structure, unless you're hiring a lot of people in support behind someone who is just going to essentially carry a license and come in and oversee on a very part-time basis, it's not going to work. So bringing in someone on a full-time basis who has the expertise to do that work makes total sense to me. And, you know, I think we need to move forward with this issue. We need to make sure that the finances are taken care of in a way in which the taxpayers have confidence in the way the budget is managed throughout the year. And I think we have to do that with someone who's in that office full-time, making sure that things are going well and can answer those questions on a day-to-day basis that the department heads are going to have as they try and manage their department budgets throughout the year. So I'm in favor of it. I think it's a good move, and we ought to get the most qualified person we can to assume that role and to make sure that we're moving forward in the right direction. And I have to ask Mr. Stinson, we've budgeted for a CFO for this year. That budget is in line with what is in the salary ordinance?
That is correct, yes.
And we are not looking at a municipal tax increase this year. So with that in mind, you know, we need to, if we're going to continue to be as efficient as possible, we need to manage those budgets going forward. But I want to make it clear that that salary is already included in the budget that has been introduced.
I also would like to share some of my feelings. I want to move forward also. I'm in full agreement there. You brought up the subject of general ledger, and I just want to comment on it since you brought it up.
I didn't bring it up, Mrs. Phillips. I wasn't going to mention it at all.
Well, then you mentioned it. You commented on it, so I'm going to comment on it. I mean, before I was sitting here, you use Excel spreadsheet for general ledger, and apparently it worked. It was no problem, but the city did, prior to me sitting here, purchase that software system that was supposed to be implemented, employees trained to use it, and I guess if that had been done, maybe we wouldn't be in the position we're in. So if we do have a software program and it is up to date, my concern is, are we going to use it? Are we going to have a CFO that's going to train employees to use it? Is it going to be used properly so we don't run into this problem again moving forward? That's a concern of mine. And a comment that was made by Mr. Pucci and someone else up here, that this is the first time a financial statement has been filed late. Well, that's not true. There is a report called an Emma report, and anyone can get it, and it's specifically generated for bondholders to know the financial status of the city. Are they filing properly? And this city's filed numerous financial documents late, 2009, 2010, 2011. So I can get you a copy of the Emma report if you want to see it. I don't know if you could just search it and Google it and find it. But I just wanted to make a comment to that. So it is not the first time. The idea of having a part-time CFO, yeah, obviously it's not working. And if Ed feels that he wants a full-time CFO, you know, that's his prerogative for things to work smoothly. Another thing I have a problem with the salary ordinance is the increase in the maximum salary for this position. According to the New Jersey League of Municipalities, the average municipal CFO is $87,000. So we're taking the maximum from 80 to 110, and to me that looks, like 30% increase on the maximum end. And the last thing we need is to have another $100,000 salary in our ordinance. So I respect your wishes to have a full-time CFO, but I don't favor 110,000 increase. If we could have searched a little harder and got somewhere more in a range under 100,000, I mean, 6 figures is something we're trying to reduce here in this city, reduce salaries. I don't think taxpayers want to see another salary of $100,000 in our city ordinance.
If I may, Mayor, with respect to filing the financial documents late, in terms of the annual financial statement, that was filed late this year. It was filed late last year. It's due the beginning of February, and last year it was filed the end of February. This year it wasn't filed until a couple weeks ago, extremely late. Prior years, that was not filed late. Same thing with the audit. Last year, the audit, which is the 2013 audit, which is filed in June, which is due in June, that was filed late. Prior years, it was not filed late. So what I believe you're referring to with respect to the financial documents, there was a change, as I understand it, and I don't have the facts 100% on this, but I will get them for you. My understanding from speaking with our auditor is that there was a change in financial reporting that had to do with the bond rating, and that was something that every municipality, or a substantial amount of municipalities, were late in doing, because it was a change that was either decided and then regulated. However that worked, I don't have the specifics, but I will get them. But it was not when we talk about the financial documents being that annual financial statement, which is the beginning of everything, right, for the year. That wraps up last year, and it tells you where all your balances, where all your expenditures were. And then your audit, which is due in the beginning, in the middle of the year. Those documents were not filed late until just recently. And again, it is not a criticism of any personnel. It is simply at least I have drawn the conclusion that a substantial contributing factor to those late filings are the fact that we have a part-time CFO versus a full-time.
Okay, any further discussion on this?
Yeah, I have a comment real quick too. I think when this first came across, I looked at the salary and I did ask the city manager, I said, how do we justify this salary? I know one of the major concerns that people have is salaries of this magnitude. And I know I can't get into the applicant pool or what was there, but I think the city manager did a good job of answering that question. I think oftentimes we start to look at numbers and line items because it seems very understandable. It seems easy to look at, 80,000 and 110,000 and say, okay, there's a difference. But I think you have to look at the bigger picture and look beyond that number. One of the most important positions that you can have in any company or any city is your CFO. One of the things you need to be able to do is you need to make decisions based on up-to-date information. Some of the problems that we've had in previous budgets or previous financial situations in the city is not having the accurate information put before us. I think it's something that needs to be fixed. I think you need to hire somebody who is quality. I'm a firm believer in you get what you pay for. One of the things I did ask too, is there any cost savings? Is there any benefit to hiring someone of this caliber? What was told to me by the city manager is, you're looking at things that we would have to outsource before that can be done in-house by, this CFO, which would come at a cost savings of about $10,000 to $15,000. So if you're looking at cost savings, you start to look at how that goes against that salary, and it starts to bring things a little bit more in line of what we're looking at across the state. I do appreciate that. I do hear that there's consensus that we need to move forward and that possibly this idea of a part-time CFO doesn't work, but I also want to note that it's important that we did go through that and we did try that, because it's very important to try to save the taxpayers' money. When we can do that, when it works, you need to go with it. If it's something that's not working, and from what I'm hearing from our professionals is that it is not working, I think we need to move in a new direction. If there was a way to hire somebody at a lower salary that would work for what we're looking for, it's definitely the possibility, but from what was told to me, I don't see that at this time. So I think it's important to note those things as we look at this decision. It's not just about the number, but the quality of product that we're going to bring to Brigantine to stabilize, the tax base and help us to start to make good decisions on up-to-date information.
Thank you, Vince. Any further discussion?
Just one thing, and I'm taking as an article of faith that when Ed is negotiating with whomever he ultimately decides to negotiate with, and I understand you have at least a couple of candidates, that you'll keep in mind that Brigantine is a pretty good gig for anybody to have. John Doring will tell you that. This is, I understand people don't want to make a lateral move, they always want to move up, but, there are offsetting considerations a lot of times too, and if a person's coming from a much more difficult situation where their salary is X, sometimes a little less than X will work when you have what I think objectively is a good situation here. But I'm trusting you will do that. The other thing, and I agree, we need to move forward, but in large part because way too much of the discussion about this issue has been, I think, unnecessarily and irresponsibly focused on scare tactics. How many times members of this council over these past many weeks that we've talked about this have talked about things like, thank goodness for the honesty of our employees, or who knows what could have happened. Let's be clear. The money that comes into the city, that has been coming into the city, has been handled by, to a small extent, the clerk's office, largely the tax office. That money's always been accounted for. Those people have always done their job and done it well. There's never been a risk at any time that money was unaccounted for. Money was being put into the proper accounts by the people in the departments. The departments are accounting for their spending and have been all through. What was lacking, as I understand it, was keeping up with the compilations, the periodic financial reports, which we're told in the Edmund system or the general ledger system would allow for, I think, monthly snapshots of where you are in your various accounts and in your various departments. That appears to have been the lack. So it is just a case of the paperwork not having caught up, and that's the problem, and I agree that we need to deal with it, and it's a full-time CFO, I think, is probably the way to best address that. But let's not leave the impression with the public that there was any kind of recklessness or negligence happening in terms of how their money was being handled and processed and stored. That didn't happen.
Rick, I don't think anyone tried to create, and I've said it several times, I said it again tonight, that all funds are accounted for. The problem you have when you're accounting for $29 million is they have to be posted to the correct areas within the accounting system, and that means all requisitions and purchase orders have to be posted to the correct areas so that you have a pure accounting of what you spent within those line items. And I think we would all agree that that was one of the issues that we've faced going forward. Hopefully that won't be an issue that we'll have to deal with, that everything will be, no one, I think, made any allegations that anyone did anything wrong. It was a matter of putting things in the right categories and then being able to account for those, whether it's on a quarterly or yearly basis, or actually it should be a running total, which we had before. But, and I also agree with you that Brigantine is a very nice place to work, with the possible exception of being the clerk and you have to come to these meetings. But it is a very nice place to work, and I know that Mr. Stinson will do the best in negotiating, moving into those negotiations with the candidate.
I think, too, something that's really important is I think as a council, think we need to start to find the things that we can agree on and start to focus on those and start to move forward. You know, obviously, we're going to have differences of opinions. A lot of us have different philosophies, you know, but if we can start to find the consensus, we can start to build that relation and build that foundation to start moving forward. Sometimes I get concerned that we focus on personality rather than issue. And I think it's something that I hear from both sides now that we need to start doing.
Thank you, Vince. Okay, could we have roll call on this?
View,
Yes.
McLean,
I'm not in favor of a maximum $110,000 salary for a CFO position. I vote no.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, Resolution 2015-63 is the approval to submit and execute a grant application with the Federal Emergency Management Agency for Fire Prevention and Safety Grant. Do we have a motion and second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Ed, the fire chief not here, but do you have some of the specifics on this?
I do. First, Alan was not able to make tonight's meeting, but he did give me a summary. This is a grant application. It's a 95% grant, 95% grant, 5% match. What is being applied for is for the fire department to purchase smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors to provide them at no cost to homes, and also to provide education training for 2 firefighters, one for a calls and origin class and the other for a firefighter 1 course.
Great. Thank you, Ed. Any other questions from council?
How much of a grant is this, Ed?
It is under 100,000, but I don't have the number.
Okay, could we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
McLean,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Resolution 2015-64, memorializing resolution to award a contract with Hatchmont McDonald for preparation of mapping and H&H analysis and benefit cost analysis for flood hazard risk reduction and resiliency grant program. Have a motion second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
McLean,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Resolution 2015-65, authorizing the purchasing agent to accept bids for mechanical maintenance and repair service for the sewer pumping station, water works materials, HVAC, alarm system, sodium hypochlorite solution, electrical service, open box refuse container service, and well maintenance service. Could we have a motion second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, generally, is this maybe a John question? What's this stuff for?
I hope to throw that tie away.
Generally, it's for the operation of public works.
More detail, please. It's all just general public work stuff?
Yeah, municipal buildings, wells, lift stations, heating and air conditioning throughout the city, buildings,
These go out every year.
every year.
These are contracts that are bid every year.
So it is for a contractor for specific items, mechanical maintenance one, electrical being another, alarm systems, HVAC maintenance and repair. Issues like that Public Works, as the need arises during the year, they have a vendor to call in to do the service.
Thanks, Ed. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
McLean,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, we move to Resolution 2015-66.
Can we put them all together?
I would have to ask our solicitor if we can combine them. If they are the different vendors, does that matter?
Now, I assume we're talking about Resolution 66 through Resolution 71?
Yeah, 71.
Yes.
Assuming the council is okay with it and that the votes are going to be the same, if there is any dissenting vote on any one of them, then you shouldn't be doing it that way, but you can do it, effectively do it by consent agenda procedure.
Okay. If we're in favor of invoking the Banani rule, which was to combine these resolutions, everybody okay with that?
I just have a question. It looks like it's all the same chemical seeds for the golf course. Why are there so many separate vendors?
It's all different items. When it went out to bid.
Oh, they get divided up, fertilizers,
Right.
chemicals?
Right, it'll say item, like certain companies.
Certain items are awarded to, based on low bid. They appropriate out the different items to the low bid.
I got you. So seed and turf, for example, may only be for seed, might necessarily be for fertilizer or chemical.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, resolution 2015 through 2071 is award of contracts for furnishing of fertilizer, chemicals, and seed for the golf links. We have a motion, second, please.
So moved.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
McLeod,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, resolution 2015-72 is an award of contract for a COA housing consultant to Ms. Shirley Bishop, based on her hourly rate of $165. Can I have a motion, second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Ed, I can begin by saying we've been trying to come into compliance with COA, I would say, for at least the last decade. We are continuing in the face of recent court decisions and where Brigantine status is right now. So do you want to explain what Ms. Bishop does as a consultant?
Ms. Bishop has served as our COA consultant for a number of years and represents us very well. She is extremely knowledgeable in the Affordable Housing Act requirements and even the COA rules and regulations. She helps us interpret those regulations so that we can provide a plan that will demonstrate that we are meeting our obligation, our requirements under the Fair Share Housing Act. So she has been our consultant for a number of years, has represented us very well. She is extremely qualified in this field, and I recommend to council that we appoint her for 2015, especially now in light of the recent court decision. We need to act. There are certain deadlines that have been provided by the court to protect us from possible Mount Laurel-related lawsuits. So she is a very good one to serve us, to help us protect the town from that lawsuit.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion by council? Okay, seeing none?
This is something that, yes, hopefully we get this in place, and in the end, the result would be having a few affordable housing units for people in the community to have the opportunity to purchase. Is that correct? That's our goal?
That is part of our goal. So there's, yes, we've already purchased 2 units. It's called a market to affordable program. So the city, through a trust fund that we have collected fees, COA fees, we use that money to purchase a unit, and then we have a consultant that helps us determine what is the low to moderate value of that unit, and we subsidize with the trust fund money the difference between what the market rate is and what that affordable rate is. And so we have done that for 2 units. We are looking at potentially doing 2 additional units. That is correct, along with other elements that are part of our plan.
Okay, any further discussion?
I would just like to say that Shirley Bishop is very knowledgeable and really impressive. the opportunity to have her come and speak to us at Planning Board several years ago, and she was just very impressive.
She's actually the former director of the, executive director of the Council on Affordable Housing. So it's, you know, her qualifications, you know, are unmatched, but to try and navigate through these rules, it is not an easy process, and hopefully one that we'll be able to get to completion and bring it across the finish line soon. Okay, could we have roll call, please?
View?
Yes.
McLeod?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, resolution 2015-73 is award of contract for phase services proposed well and well house number 9. And this City Council authorized the preparation, specification, advertisement of public bids for the construction phase services, and the construction phase services for proposed well. The recommendation is to award it to Remington, Vernick, and Wahlberg Engineers based on their bid of $85,000. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Ed, you want to talk about the bidding environment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is one of our NJEIT projects. This is the construction of well number 9 to replace well number 4 along Bayshore Avenue at 42nd Street. And this is funded through the NJEIT. This is our first project. If you recall, we have 8 projects pending with the NJEIT. We were able to move this one forward with the 2015 funding cycle. We will be it's roughly a $1.8 million project. Of that, $250,000 roughly is debt forgiveness. So we are getting a grant of $250,000 towards this project. The rest is a low-interest loan. What you are awarding this evening is for the engineering work to do the construction management and inspection services of that project. It meets the NJEIT requirements for this phase. It was bid amongst our consulting engineers. The low bidder is Remington and Vernick. They are also the firm that did the design and the permitting for the well. So it's a good opportunity for us. I think it's a great price, and I recommend that you award the contract.
Great. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
View?
Yes.
McLeod?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we move to our consent agenda. We have St. Thomas raffle licenses 736, 737, and 738. The amateur radio field day request, the Heart of Surfing skateboard event request, and the skin cancer screening request. We have a motion and a second, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Could we have roll call, please?
View?
Yes.
McLeod?
One quick question about the Heart of Surfing. So that's going to be in the ocean, right? Is that where this event's going to be?
It's the request to use the skateboard park.
Oh, the skateboard
Yes.
park. What's the condition like there? Is it,
They have been there. They've seen it, and
because there's a lot of cracks in those bowls, and just maybe we need to do a little touching up before we bring people in. Okay. Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next we move to the manager council discussion, committee discussion. We're going to begin, I guess, with the beach committee report and discussion, I guess, of items that are included in the report. Councilman DeLucre, you have the report from the beach committee.
I do, Mayor. Thank you. And in your packet was a copy of an email that Ed circulated, which identifies the 2 main issues that the Beach Committee considered when we met last Tuesday, the 24th. So I won't go over that in complete detail, but the first issue was brought to our attention by Mike Lielli of Primal Surf. Mike, as you know, is a licensee of the city who conducts the paddleboard and surfing lessons down by the jetty during the summer months. Mike had concerns about potential safety issues between the jet skiers who use that same stretch of beach, basically between the jetty and the cove, and the generally novice paddleboarders and surfers that he's teaching during the summer. After some discussion, committee has 4 recommendations that are all included in the email, which are that the committee would like council to authorize first that our professionals, Ed, Fred, whomever, reach out to the appropriate enforcement and authorizing agencies to get permission to set up 1 or more buoys, which would be placed at some as yet unspecified location as kind of a visual demarcation of the surfing and paddleboarding area, and as a visual note for jet skiers that that's an area that they're not to be in. In that same vein, we're recommending that a pole or poles be set up on the beach of a size and location where they would be visible to jet skiers, and which would also act as sort of a general demarcation of the line beyond which the jet skiers should not cross, because that area is reserved for surf and paddleboard lessons. Also, to reestablish a defined area of the beach where jet skis can be beached and launched. We had that in the past, and I guess the actual markers vanished somewhere along the way or fell into disuse, but the suggestion to council is that we should definitely reestablish an area, and the exact location certainly, is a matter of judgment, but it should be somewhere with at least some physical remove from the outer edge or the outer limit of where they do the paddle boarding and surfing instructions. And finally, develop some better means of informing jet skiers of the rules and regulations affecting how they operate. The rules and regulations have been in effect for a while, and they're in writing, and I suspect when someone gets their license to launch jet skis, they're given those. No particular directive or recommendation here, other than the people who are involved in that program, if they come up with some ideas on how better to communicate in a way that it's going to actually reach the jet skiers, and whether they're going to read it or not, you can't control, but at least no one can come to us after the fact and say, gee, I didn't know that I could or couldn't do A, B, or C. So none of those require any formal legislative action from us, but what the council, or what the committee is asking council, if you agree with the concepts of it, to generally direct our professionals and our departments to start taking the steps necessary to implement those things. The second item the beach committee looked at was the idea of whether or not the council ought to implement a ban on what I'll refer to as the personal use portable toilets. I'm not sure what their exact title is, but if you're not familiar with them, basically, it's a freestanding toilet structure of some kind which people bring to the beach. I don't know if this happens a lot. The indications are it's not a widespread thing, but it happens. And people use these in lieu of using the porta potties that we have set up at the entrance to the beaches. And while they're using them, I gather that there's some kind of privacy curtain, equivalent to a shower curtain, that surrounds it. It's a bad visual, and I imagine it's an even worse experience if you're laying out on the beach and, there's seagulls fighting over some corn chips on one side, there's Fran Messino on the four-wheel drive somewhere else, and on this side is, we don't see the benefit. The committee did not see any benefit to it, particularly since, our Public Works Department has set up, if we're talking about the Jetty Beach, what do you have, like 6 porta potties there in season? So there's really adequate capacity for those purposes. So we're asking council to consider a ban on these portable toilets, however we might define or label them.
John, can I ask you how often the porta potties are serviced?
Yes, in season, they're cleaned on Thursdays Saturday and Monday. The heaviest time is over the weekend, that's why we kind of bulk it into there.
Because they do get a lot of use.
We're up to 6 at the jetty and I believe 4 at the cove. Yes. They're used a lot.
Actually, I'd like to comment on the first issue too with the PWCs and the surf. I know this came up at the committee meeting. I don't want to give people the impression that we're trying to create new rules or trying to take something away from somebody. But from my understanding from the committee, like we're one of the only communities, at least in this area, if not the state, that allows PWCs to launch from the beach or from the beaches. One of the other things too is according to the New Jersey State Police Boater Safety Manual, those PWCs are not allowed to operate within 100 feet of people in the water. So one of the things we're actually trying to accomplish with this is to remind people and give people a visual reminder of what the rules are. This way we can kind of be proactive in preventing a possible problem in the future. So I just wanted to clarify that because I know the first thing that people are going to look at, especially if you're a jet skier, is that now something's being taken away from you. That's not our intention. It's just to remind people of the rules that are already existing in place.
So it sounds like the recommendation is to have, it might be Chief Reed or city manager reach out to Marine Police and Coast Guard, whoever has jurisdiction there.
Yeah. And depending on where the buoys go, maybe DEP or the Army Corps as well. I don't know.
It's every one of them have.
Yeah. The buoy may be a big, much more difficult issue.
Yeah, well, that was actually the reason why someone, I forget who I should give credit to, but someone came up with the idea of putting the poles in on the beach in the interim as you're waiting or working your way through whatever process there is to get a buoy approved.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was something we looked at because we knew the poles were within our jurisdiction, so that's something we could do. But I think since it is an inlet, that's something that would have to go through the state. I don't know that we'd be able to make that happen, but it's something we can look into.
And then we were also looking at amending our beach ordinance with respect to the portable porta-potty.
Yeah,
So we'll look to put something together for the next meeting.
I have to tell you, I'm amazed that that is going on, given the fact that we do provide porta pots and, on the south end beaches, but also we have bathroom facilities available, on all of the beaches. So I think it presents a number of issues, not the least of which there are health issues for both people on the beach as well as public works employees who may have to dispose of whatever is left behind. And I'm not sure, Fred, how we address this in an ordinance. That's something that we'll leave to your legal research.
This is beyond legal research.
We know you're up for the challenge.
And I know, John, you had some communication today from some people who saw, I guess, the initial reports in the press of Atlantic City?
A couple phone calls from a few residents supporting it, and I got a phone call from Atlantic County Board of Health saying that whatever support we needed, that they would also help us out, and sent me over some literature.
How about putting up some signs? Like the old no ball playing sign. I'm just trying to come up with some wording.
So we've spoken, John and I, about this. The numbers, there's not that many. I go to the Jetty Beach fairly often, and I have seen occasionally, but it's not that many. So I think it's something I've talked with the police chief as well. When the specials do their sweeps, with an ordinance, they would have the authority. I'll talk with Kip Emick, the beach patrol chief. Likewise, with an ordinance, we have the authority to tell anybody that may think of doing this that it's prohibited. But I don't know that we need to educate too many people because there's only a handful, I think, that are doing it.
I guess this is new technology? Okay. And so you'll come back, Mr. Cerny, with...
No problem. What penalty would you
That's a good
Dirty
question.
wax.
Community service.
Loss of permit.
Yeah, you take away your shower curtain.
The next item that's on
Loss
the,
of permit. Loss of permit.
Loss of permit?
For
next item
for
on-
30 days.
We don't have a permit, we don't have a permit for that yet. It's a-
No, permit,
No, no, I
four-wheel
know,
drive permit.
yes.
next item is the Green Team Community Yard Sale, which Cheryl gave a presentation earlier. I would just ask if council is supportive, which it seems that you are, that you do either voice vote or a roll call, something that shows us that we can waive the yard sale permit fees.
Yeah, I guess we'd need a motion to waive the yard sale fees for the community yard sale over Memorial Day weekend.
I'll make that motion.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Does Vince?
Vince was.
And Mayor, a late comer for this item, the police department is looking to start an annual event, a community night out program. We've seen it in neighboring communities. I'd like to turn it over to the police chief to kind of discuss it with council.
We want to have on August 4th, it's called National Night Out. National Night Out is an annual event that involves citizens, law enforcement agencies, civic groups, businesses, neighborhood organizations, local officials from over 15,000 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, Canadian cities, and military bases worldwide. Each year, over 37 million people participate in local organized activities on the first Tuesday of August. National Night Out is designed to heighten crime and drug prevention awareness, generate support and participation in local anti-crime programs, strengthen neighborhood spirit and police community partnerships, and send a message to criminals letting them know that neighborhoods are organized and fighting back. We're reaching out to local, state, and federal agencies as well as the military to participate in our event. As I said, we were asking for this event to be held on August 4th at the 26th Street recreational field.
Great. And Chief, it's organized activities. The target, of course, is youth and families coming out together, and hopefully we'll have a renovated shark park for them to visit, as well as
Yes.
all the other groups being represented.
Yes, and it's going to be pretty much the police, the fire, and public works. Pretty much giving back to the community.
Great. Anyone on council have any discussion concerning National Night Out? I know it's been done in a number of communities that surround us.
No, what kind of activities would there be?
Well, we're going to be, we're bringing in is, we're trying to get a lot of, like, say, the SRT teams coming in. We're working on trying to get a helicopter to come in, the military to bring in vehicles, pretty much more of a, like a see and touch.
And Tim, this usually starts, I guess, around, it's still light and then goes into the evening?
We're looking at around 6 o'clock into like 9, 10 o'clock
Okay,
at night.
great. And I'm sure you'll get support from the community of organizations here, the community-based organizations will support that as well, I'm confident.
Yes, along with the police and fire
Absolutely.
unions and the public works.
Great. So we need a motion second to approve the National Night Out? Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Thank you.
opposed? I want to bring up one other item that's not on here, but we actually have touched on it tonight. And I've talked to the manager about this, and it deals with the COA fees and individuals who are rebuilding from Sandy, and how we want to address that going forward. Ed has a better handle on how this kicks in, but I know that both he and I share some concerns major concerns about individuals who have already been impacted by Sandy having to contribute to the Affordable Housing Fund. What I would like to propose is that we provide an exemption for individuals who have been impacted by Sandy, and if we've collected any fees so far, that we actually refund those fees. Majority of the people I have spoken to, and members of Brig Strong know this, they, I think, are trying to do the best they can to rebuild and using the resources that they have and what's been made available through REM and other sources, perhaps ICC or insurance money, but I don't see a lot of excess money out there for people to contribute to the affordable housing program. So, in fact, some of them would, I think some of our victims would fall into the category when they're rebuilding of affordable housing. So I know you and I talked a little bit about the financial aspect of this, but.
Yes, Mayor. We did speak, and I followed up with Shirley Bishop. We have the ability and are within rights, according to the state, to amend our ordinance to provide an exemption for this storm-related or you know, a tragedy clause. What we do now, and the way the ordinance is written now, on a demolition and a rebuild, the COA fee is assessed based on the difference in the value pre-demolition of the improvement, pre-demolition to post-demolition. So, for example, if you had a house that had an assessment of $70,000, you tear that down, you build new, and that has an assessment of $100,000, then you're paying your COA fee based on a $30,000 increase in value. So the numbers that we're talking about aren't huge. It's not like a vacant lot that builds a brand new home, but it does impact property owners who already suffered the loss that they did from Sandy. So it would be an amendment to our ordinance. In terms of the order of magnitude, I don't believe it affects a large number, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 plus or minus properties that are Sandy damaged properties that received the substantial damage determination, went forward, demoed the property, and then put up a new structure. So we're talking, if they average $1,000 a piece, you're talking in that neighborhood. Keep in mind, though, that is money that is collected and placed in a trust fund, a COA trust fund. So it isn't coming out of our tax dollars, it's coming out of the trust fund. They would be reimbursing.
How would they be reimbursed if they built with a grant money? How would that get reimbursed? Would it go towards the REM program or directly to the property owner? How would that?
Right, so it would be to the property owner, I believe. So I don't believe that REM money was used to fund the COA fee. But I obviously, if we go through this amendment to the ordinance, we'll go down that road and make that determination. But my understanding is REM is not paying our COA-related fees. So it would be the property owner that paid that fee. And if this ordinance is amended, we would be looking to refund the homeowner the fees that were collected for COA. And I assume that would be done through resolution.
So, and we also know that right now we have a lot of activity going on with some recent financing through REN that's been released. So it could get to be a larger number than what we have presently. So I think it's something that, once again, it's a lot of money, but most of the people I talk to are trying to figure out a way to get to the end of the project with the resources that they have. So I think this might help a little bit, and it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense that we're collecting an affordable housing fee on someone who's rebuilding after a tragedy like Sandy in their lives. And they have a lot of out-of-pocket costs that they'll never get reimbursed for that are, continuing. So it's something that might help in the long run.
After being at the REM workshop or whatever it was last week, my eyes were really wide open after that. It's amazing how many people are still trying to get their money, trying to go through all the paperwork and the red tape and anything that we can do to help them. will be greatly appreciated.
My thought on that would just be, this may be a great idea, but can we, you know, I've been trying, Ed, for quite some time to get some information. I understand scheduling hasn't permitted that from our COA consultant as to, you know, what exactly is our program, who's affected, what's it cost them, et cetera, et cetera. So I would like first to hear from her, and I know you're trying to get her to come down here for our next meeting, for kind of a baseline explanation of what our program is, and then if we can couple that with some hard data about the number of people who already have paid into the COA program but would qualify potentially for the sort of reimbursement we're talking about. And if you can project how many others might be out there in that same situation, so we could talk about it with something closer to real numbers.
I will, for sure, I have spoken with Shirley Bishop regarding this, so when she comes next meeting, she can update us and advise us. It is permissible, and in fact, the DCA actually recommended it to me that we make that revision.
Well,
we will
then
also
I would ask this, so that we don't tie this thing up for 3 months, you know, and have paralysis by analysis, that we have Fred at least begin to look at how we make this happen, so that when we come back to the next meeting, we have a way to make it happen and go forward.
The DCA did provide the language that would need to be added in the ordinance. So I have that. I will get that with Fred. We'll have Shirley here. We'll have everything ready. I'll get the numbers. Rick, in terms of projecting the future, obviously that'll be very difficult. I can tell you the numbers that our records show to date and dollar amounts, keeping in mind that is still deposited in a trust fund. So it isn't coming from our city funds. And likewise, any future any future homeowner that may now be eligible or qualified not to be charged a COA fee, that likewise is money that just simply goes into this trust fund. So it would just be less money that would be deposited into the trust fund. But I will have those numbers for sure. We'll have an ordinance ready to be amended. I'll have as many numbers as we can get for you. And Ms. Bishop will be ready to talk to us about what our plan is. And give us good details, because we have a plan. We have a plan that was already submitted for certification. So the information is there. It simply needs to be updated. The strategies are there. We'll have all that information for next meeting.
The way the fee works for affordable housing, my understanding is before an individual gets their CO, they write a check for the affordable housing part of whatever that cost is to our fund. And that might be a difficult thing for some people who have been through this process to write that final check to affordable housing. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. So if we can figure out how to get that done, Fred, that would be appreciated in the next meeting.
Just want to make sure I'm clear on where we're at. So right now, we're going to have Mr. Cerny, I guess, put together how to do that. And then in the meantime, before we make a decision as council, we're going to have Ms. Bishop come down and speak to us about what the process is or what the COA package is. Okay.
Okay, you good?
Good.
All right. Okay, any other issues from manager or council discussion?
I think, Cheryl, did you want to speak about the policy you brought up to mayor and council? Oh.
Why don't you do it during public comment?
I'd like to make an announcement now. This might be a good time before everybody leaves. April 4th, which is this Saturday, at 10 a.m., the Brigantine Green Team will be holding its third beach plum planting. And we'll be meeting at Renaissance Cove and Ocean Drive West at 10 a.m. And what do we bring? Gloves? Shovel? And yourself. And it takes about 2 hours. What do we have, 100 beach plums? So it takes about 2 hours, and it's a fun event, and we're going to be doing the planting. It runs parallel with the homes on Ocean Drive West and the inlet. So that's this Saturday at 10 a.m. Come on out and meet us. And the location, actually, Renaissance and Ocean Drive West, it's between house numbers 32 and 34, if you're not familiar with that area.
Great. All right, at this time, I'll
Well,
open the
I'm
meeting.
sorry, Phil, I have,
I'm sorry, Rick.
two more things. Two things. The first, our Director of Public Works, John Doring, has an important announcement he'd like to make about your recycling schedule.
Just a reminder that our recycling dates are going to change. April 13th, your recycling will now be picked up the same day as your trash. Recycling is still every other week. It'll be picked up the day that your trash is scheduled to be picked up. It will not be only on Tuesdays.
Thank you, John. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that at our last council meeting, one of the items that we voted on was an extension of the management contract for the golf course. That extension agreement also included, for the first time, a provision that would allow the management company to subcontract food and beverage operations to a third party at the golf course. At that time, there was no discussion, either publicly or in council's private discussions, about the fact that the management company may already have been negotiating or have even already struck a deal with a third party to provide food and beverage service. Why does that matter? Well, that matters because when we as a council are being asked to consider extending a contract where we pay money each month to the management company, and for those who weren't here, I'll point out I questioned at the last meeting and didn't get an answer. What is it we got or we're getting for our $6,000 a month to the management company? But in the context of that discussion, I think it would have been important, certainly to me, to know if there was a deal in the making which is going to generate some, as yet, unspecified amount of revenue to the management company, because that stays with the management company for the food and beverage operations that are now being third-partied out. I knew nothing about this. I had no information about it. I do not know, and I'll leave it to my fellow council people to explain whether or not they knew anything of this, but it strikes me as implausible that the deal that was struck and that now has apparently been signed all came together in the period of time since our last council meeting. So whether or not you think that's an important factor, it's clearly something that should have been put into the discussion, and I would have to question if there are other members of this council or other members of our city government who were aware of this and knew that we were voting to extend the management agreement with this new provision allowing the management company to third party out and keep the money, why you would not bring that up for consideration by council.
I'd like to have Nathan from the golf course come up and explain the details of how he got to the management company, please.
Good evening, Council. Following the meeting, I believe it was April the 18th, if I remember correct, was the last meeting. Once the extension was approved, I'm sorry, March, I apologize. March 18th, once that extension was approved, I then, on the following day, met with 3 separate individuals to offer them, ask them if they would be interested in the opportunity to manage the food and beverage concessions at the golf course. I then received 2 proposals from the people that I met with, and following discussions with my superiors at Meadowbrook Golf down in Orlando, Florida, actually Lakeland, Florida now, then a decision was made to enter into an agreement with the vendor. Is that
Now, Nathan, the vendor is in control of the beverage portion as well? Is it a full turnkey operation for them, food and beverage?
full turnkey operation? Yes, sir.
Right. I don't know if you were here at the time, but there was an issue a couple of years back, or now several years back, about the relationship between the city as the entity which is allowed to get a concessionaire's permit for the sale of liquor, and the management company or designee of the management company that actually runs the operation. Are you familiar, not with the details maybe, but that there was a dispute about that?
I've heard discussions.
Yeah, and my understanding of that, the resolution of that dispute by the ABC was in part that the vendor who actually runs and presumably gets the revenue from the sale of alcoholic beverages cannot be the 100% owner that, well, let me take it back, that the management company or the city has to have at least some percentage interest in the entity which sells the alcoholic beverages.
Okay, again, that was prior to my time here.
Right, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot with that, but I'm just curious because, again, first I heard about any of this was tonight, so I certainly haven't seen any agreements between any of the parties here. I would be interested in seeing, but I wonder, has anyone on council or any of our professionals reviewed those agreements to make sure that the arrangement between our management company and the third-party food and beverage vendor does not once again run afoul of the restriction that was in issue several years back? I don't know if anyone's seen it. Has
I think
anyone
that was
seen
a legal question.
Well, no, it's a question, has anyone seen the agreement?
No, I have not seen the agreement, but I think one of the things that...
I'd like to ask this. Do we need to see an agreement between our vendor and their vendor?
I don't know that we need to. If we wanted to, I think we'd be entitled to.
Okay.
If you ask the question the other way, I mean, I think that we can ask for it.
Are we entitled to it?
I think we're entitled to, yeah.
Okay. Nathan, can
Actually,
you
my recall-
provide
but
Fred
my-
Cerny with the agreement you
I'll
have
be happy
between
to
your
provide him
vendor?
with a copy, absolutely.
And Fred, can you make sure it's all in legal order?
Sure.
Okay, then go have a hoagie down there afterwards. I don't care.
Thank you, Nathan. Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the meeting for public comment. Anyone who would like to address council? Yes, Cheryl, I know you have...
Cheryl Masholi, 3312 Ocean Avenue. I just wanted to make keep them quick, comments about the green team and things that we have going on. And one of them was in regards to the beach issue that we had, that you were talking about earlier. And this is just an idea. I don't know if it's been brought up before, but it's certainly something that will help with our recycling and trash issues at the Cove and the Jetty. But if we've ever considered having the Cove and the Jetty be a carry-in, carry-out beach area, meaning that whatever trash you bring in, you take that out with you, just like a state park. It's a privilege to have a 4x4 permit down there, and what you probably don't realize is that you're subsidizing a lot of people who don't live in Brigantine by taking their trash, because there's no recycling bins back there. So all that trash and all that tonnage is actually picked up by Public Works, and we haul it away, and we pay a tonnage fee on that. So you would actually probably save a lot, or you'd save a decent amount if you considered implementing that. And you also could solve your problem about the portable toilets, and it would eliminate a lot of problems about the trash at the beach as well. And I think most of the people that do visit there are, a lot of them are locals or people who have been going there for a long time, so they want to keep it clean, and they could help police that. This is just a consideration if you ever, wanted to think about it in the next couple meetings. I know me and John have talked about it in regards to just making it a cleaner area, and you save money, which is awesome. Okay, so that's
Thank
one.
you,
Yeah. So that's one of them. I'll go quick. The second one was on the when you're talking about the tourism committee. Just to let you know that if I know the meetings are open, but the Green Team has had lots of discussion about ecotourism, lively discussions at our monthly meetings, and we would love to, be a part of that in any way, shape, or form if there is still an opening, or, somebody from our team might want to be on that committee, just in regards to recycling, electric cars. I think we could add a lot of value to it. So that's my second point. My third point is the bag policy, which I actually don't have a copy because I gave it to you. So, thank you. So the 2015 Brigantine Farmers Market is going to be plastic shopping bag free, meaning that our vendors have agreed that if they're not a meat or a seafood vendor who requires their product to be on ice, they will not be giving plastic bags away when you make a purchase. So we are encouraging, you all have a copy of it's an informal policy, obviously not put in place by the city of Brigantine, but we are encouraging everybody every week to bring reusable bags, to bring containers. Vendors, if they forget to bring them, vendors are able to charge a fee for brown bags. I don't know what that could be. Some may charge 5 cents, some may charge 10, some might charge 15, but they have agreed to do this, and so we just want to, alert the community. We think it's a really good opportunity to see how people react to this policy. We think that they will, welcome it with open arms, and it really would say a lot if we could help to just bring some attention to this issue, especially since, we're home of the Marine Mammal Training Center, and we're a beach community with a sensitive ecosystem. So I don't know if I left anything out, but yeah, I think that's it. And I don't know, that's all I have for right now. So if anybody has any questions, they can see this policy. It's posted on our website, BrigantineBeachGreenTeam.com. That's the official Brigantine Green Team website. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Frank.
Frank and Jemmy, 605 West Shore Drive. Now, about the low-income housing you're talking about, I worked for a company called Orleans Home Builders from 72 to 08 when I retired. I was in Mount Laurel when they started that low thing, and it wasn't a very great idea. Now, what you're talking about is buying a house and fixing it up and turning around and reselling it, and I don't think the taxpayer should pay that money. When the law was passed, it was said for every I was a supervisor for at least 4 or 5 different jobs in Mount Laurel. For every so many new houses you put up, a percentage was supposed to be low income. I never heard about coach saying you had to buy a house, fix it up, and resell it. The only place here in this city that I can see where it would be done is at that Rum Point down there. If they ever build it, for so many houses they put up, they're supposed to put low income. It doesn't say no place else would be doing it. I think it's wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. It's, as we said earlier, a very complicated process to go through to be certified, and I guess accredited or certified through the Affordable Housing Program or approved. We are actually in that process in part because we were sued under a Mount Laurel lawsuit. I can't echo those words, Frank, but I agree with you but we have to go through this process again. And our situation, they have had all different types of remedies. Some in the past we've been able to buy credits in other communities. We've been able to pay for some affordable housing and it could be not even in this county, but now it seems that we have the Market to Affordable program. That is what we're dealing with at this time. But I would encourage you to be here when Shirley Bishop comes down to talk about the program and why we're involved in it. Mike?
Michael Phelan, 2 hats. First, the Brigantine Boost Foundation. The last council meeting, I asked that the resolution be memorialized, and it appears not to have made the agenda, but I hope next meeting that you can do so. We'd like to include that with our application to the ABC.
Approval's still good.
Okay, thank you. And then as far as the beachcomber goes, I have a question regarding a contract. Number 201564, memorializing the resolution for the award of contract with Hatchmont McDonald. There was no cost included in here, and was that, excuse me, I don't remember this coming up before, but was that out for bid, or was this an emergency appropriation?
This actually was discussed and voted on at the
We
last meeting.
discussed it last meeting. The value is $24,000.
24?
$24,000.
Okay.
Yes, and it was part originally of an RFP to our consulting engineers that first engaged Hatchmont McDonald to assist us with the application, the original application for this flood risk resiliency and reduction grant. After our application was reviewed, and every application was reviewed, the DEP said we need a little more information and requested that the applicants, in order to continue to be considered for this grant, submit additional information. So that second phase, which is the subject of this resolution, was not bid out or RFP'd out to our consulting engineers because there was the value of the first contract that was already awarded to Hatchmont McDonald. So this is a resolution to award the $24,000 to Hatchmont McDonald for the additional studies that are required to be considered for this grant. It's a grant that will fund, that if we are successful, will fund 2 projects. First project is our 3 stormwater pump stations, one at Jenkins Parkway, one at Hackney Place, and one at 34th Street, which is at the Lighthouse Circle. That has a estimated cost of $850, somewhere in that range, $1,000. It's a 100% grant. The other project is the boat ramp improvements, which also includes a stormwater pump station, some storm sewer upgrades, some paving upgrades, and a floodgate at that boat ramp. And likewise, that estimated cost is around the $800,000 range. So it's 2 separate projects, but with the work that this resolution authorizes, we stand to present a very strong application for those grants.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, John.
Which John?
Which John? Whoever's fastest.
Comes back
That's
around.
accurate, that's okay. John Johnson, 36 Coquille Beach Drive. And I have my thoughts, but I want it to be a suggestion to City Council. Being here tonight, everyone that came up under public comment conducted themselves in a fine manner. No one screamed, yelled, called names. And I think if you're new to the community, whether you see it on TV or attend a meeting here, tonight is the way it should function. 2 meetings ago, we had 3 or 4 individuals up here that were just totally out of control, name calling, yelling, off the beaten path, just unacceptable conduct. So anybody that would have just turned on the TV and seen that, they would have an opinion of Brigantine. What are those people like? Or if you just walked in, new person, and you've seen those people acting like that. So my suggestion would be is that you print on the agenda and on your website that when you come to City Council meeting, we encourage you to come up for public comment, but please conduct yourself like a gentleman. And you all deserve that respect. My other point is your 5-minute rule. Whether you need to relook at 5 minutes or 7 minutes, whatever, but you need to strictly enforce that. As a person sitting in the audience, I think, well, it's fair to some people, it's not fair to other people. You know, how do you determine you let someone rattle on forever? So my suggestions, I think it would be good if you instituted them. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Yes, John.
John Livesey, 203 9th Street North. 3 things. One, I just want to point out, it's a minor thing. I think right at the end of the meeting here, public comment comes before council comment, and it'd be nice if we adhered to that. I think the things that were brought up, the council members brought up were valid, but it could have went into a lengthy discussion. The two things that were brought up later on about the jet ski area and the porta potty problem, or potential problem. Number one, I think that controlling the jet ski area with flags or something out in the water, you gotta look at, make sure it's not in channels. But number two, do we wanna take on as a city that responsibility? Because if you put something up, you need to maintain it. And if you're gonna put restrictions up, you may have to police and enforce it. Now, you're ready to put somebody down there, pay for the added expense of that. You got the police, the Marine Police and the Coast Guard directly across the inlet. Having been an ex-retired coastie, yeah, I do know we keep an eye on that area. Educating the people to give them permits to be down on that beach and having that notification and information with them should suffice. There's plenty of federal laws and all about jet ski operations within a beach area. If you're going to start designating swimming areas and separating, then you got to provide lifeguards. Do we want to take on that responsibility? And there's some other things we got to worry about. You put sticks in, you got vandals down there, they take them out. You put something out in the water, you got to maintain that it stays in that correct position, which means you got to provide the proper anchorage and everything else. And that current really whips through there. It's tough to maintain a buoy there. So that's that on that area. There's a lot of other things we could address, but I don't want to take up the time now. I'll attend one of the meetings. As far as the porta potty and the problem down there, I don't think we should ban the product. I think there's some very good products out there. Having done a lot of camping, there are very good products out there. The problem is people come down and they just use a Wawa bag. And it's the disposal problem. It's also the misuse of the porta potties that are already there. People go in and they either trash or clog up what's there, and the city just doesn't have enough resources to get in there. You know, when some vandal goes in there and messes it up, you know, if somebody has a legitimate porta potty tent, if you will, and provides the proper adequate mechanism for disposal, it's really not a problem. I think what the city ought to look at is maybe having some kind of dumping station, if you will, no pun intended, that we could provide that would allow the, you know, the chemical process of getting rid of that problem. If we have to provide more porta potties from the city, that means more people to maintain them. And I don't think you want to do that down there. Just my thoughts.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Paul?
Paul Malfitano, 208 Washington Drive, Chairman of the Shark Park Volunteer Committee. Since we last met, the Shark Park Volunteer Committee had a number of fundraising events. We had 2 nights at the Brigantine Aquatic Center. We had a wonderful dinner and wine tasting at St. George's, and of course, Olaf's birthday bash at Laguna Grill. I'm happy to report that within those 3 events, we managed to raise around $4,000 towards our project, with the lion's share coming from the sold out Olaf event, which was over 160 people, and just I know a couple of council members were able to make it with their families, and it was an incredible outpouring of support. We are still fundraising. We are still trying to raise towards our $100,000 goal. We still have pickets for sale. We now have, thanks to CNC Design Fabrication, we have our paintable sharks now available that people can take them home and paint them. If they'd rather wait until the build week, we plan on having an arts and crafts area. The kids will be able to paint them there, or the adults, and they'll get sealed for the park. We also still have more sponsorships available. We've seen a great response in this last month for people coming forward to start sponsoring larger pieces, but there's still plenty available. The local school, Brigantine Elementary, as well as Assumption Regional Catholic School, have both stepped up. They're both doing events within their schools to raise funds, dress down things for the teachers, things like that. So we're seeing a great response from them. Brigantine Golf Links on Saturday, April 25th, is actually going to host Shark Park Day, where they will, you can contribute $5 a round towards Shark Park, as well as some different events on different holes that we're working out some details to. Friday, April 24th, the day before that, at the Brigantine Community Center, we are actually having a jewelry party. It is being termed Bling for Swings. Basically, there's going to be some local vendors selling jewelry, and everybody's invited, and they're going to contribute a nice percentage to Shark Park. If you haven't been down there as of this weekend, the park is now officially closed. Public Works has already begun to dismantle the back section, and they're working their way forwards. I was down there a few different times. The Baseball Association, the Softball Association are aware that it is closed. We do ask that parents remind their children not to go running over there. I know with practices, a lot of kids get dropped off, and then if they have free time, they naturally go there by themselves. Hopefully the parents will kind of warn them ahead of time that they don't have that available to them for safety reasons. In regards to tools, our tool trailer is there. Our stairs are built. We can now accept tools. As of not this coming Friday's paper, but next Friday, we will have a listing of all the tools that are required, and hopefully people will see that and start to donate. Frank, who spoke earlier, is our tool coordinator. If anybody wants to contact him directly, 605-1597 is his phone number. They can contact Frank, or they can call the committee at 442-0406. We'll arrange to have the tools picked up. We are also planning on having tool drop-off days where people will be at the trailer on a weekend. Again, that'll be announced in the upcoming newspapers. We will also be putting out volunteer forms. There's been a lot of questions. What days do you need help? What times do you need help? The project works in shifts of morning, afternoon, and evening. We have the different categories from skilled to non-skilled, childcare, food preparation. We will make sure that in the newspaper in the coming weeks, that form will be available. If people want to look at that and consider it, they can contact us for more information about it. They can, of course, go to the website, brigantinesharkpark.com, to get more information. We're constantly trying to update that as well. At this time, we have almost secured all of our supplies for the current build. We still have other items that we could potentially add. We also, of course, are still looking to to continue our fundraising towards our poured rubber surface. We do not at this time have enough money to go ahead with the poured rubber surface. We're hoping that through the current list of available sponsorships, as well as all of the other items that are available for fundraising, that will get us that much closer to that goal. So we encourage everybody who hasn't considered yet to donate to really look at those lists, get together with their groups, their organizations, and come forward to help us out.
Paul, do you have an estimate for the poured rubber surface?
We know that it was, the prices we were getting were anywhere from $12 to $15 a square foot. We've tried to continue to consolidate the footprint of the park to make it cheaper. You know, at this time, I don't have any firm numbers in terms of the estimates. Because of that ever changing, you know, we're trying to get to that final, as small as we can make things at this time.
Paul, I want to say, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just, and also we're trying to nail down colors, because there are some colors are more expensive than other colors.
Yep.
So that's step one, is what we've been working on, and hopefully the next meeting or two, we'll have a firm price.
First of all, I want to say, first thing this morning, I went on your Facebook page and saw you got me. Your,
We did have we had a shameless April Fool's ploy this morning where we announced that the project was not going forward. I was going to apologize for it. However, we actually received several phone calls from people that got scared into volunteering sooner rather than later, so an effective tactic.
I looked at it, I was in the middle of responding and my power went out. It was out for an hour, and then by that time, it hit me what was going on. But your Olaf's birthday party was phenomenal. It was so nicely done.
I can't thank, you know, Angela Reynolds from the Chamber who helped coordinate it, Rip and Laguna that helped pull it off, the Little Angels Princess event people and all their characters and everything. Tremendous response, and we really were so happy to make something for the kids within what we're doing, and it really...
A lot of smiles.
Yeah.
It was great.
Absolutely, there's a lot of happy kids there.
Yeah.
And, you know, Paul, one of the things I want to say is, like, you start to think about Brigantine and what makes Brigantine great. It's people like you. It's people that are on the committee, our business community. Like, I can tell you there are so many people who are working so hard, and I know we get to see just a bit of the surface of what's happening, but I know, you know, you yourself have invested so much time, so much effort, and I want to personally thank you and everybody involved, because this is really what drives your community forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Vince. And before I get embarrassed by another Atlantic City Press article, I was approached about why young families want to live in beach communities, particularly with the economics the way they are. And basically the statement was, you know, everybody makes a choice for where they want to be, what's important to them. For a lot of our young families, it's important to live by the beach, and no better place than Brigantine. So
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Mrs. Phillips.
Ann H. Phillips. A few minutes ago, Mr. DeLucre made a statement that was simply amazing and outrageous about what has happened concerning the golf course and the vote that was taken at the last meeting to approve an extension of the existing contract. Well, evidently that is not at all the whole of it. And the part that is missing and being revealed this evening is vital and a key part of that agreement and that vote. And how in the world did this council vote on something when maybe part of you knew about it and the others did not? That's totally wrong. The public certainly had the impression that the only thing that was being done was extending the contract. Mr. DeLucre did question the $6,000 figure and what we were getting for it. Well, evidently what we're getting is a lot less than what we have gotten. Now, I think there are legal concerns here as well as ethical ones. First of all, there is a lease agreement between the management company and the city regarding food and beverage. How does this new arrangement affect that? Does it invalidate it? And what is the relationship concerning the liquor license? 2, the utility. Now, it's been split. And the least lucrative part of it is being left evidently to the taxpayers, because the money's going to be made, possibly, certainly it is in other golf courses, on the food and beverage operation. So this whole thing deserves a thorough public hearing, and it certainly didn't get it. It appears that that was on purpose. That is very unfortunate. But this is a key part of that vote, and it wasn't discussed at all. And members of council didn't know anything about it. The public didn't. There have been rumors around. I've heard those. And I thought, no, this was just an extension of an existing contract. And that is not correct.
Well,
something's wrong somewhere, and this whole thing needs to be brought out. This should have full public disclosure of what happened and
Mrs.
what
Phillips,
is going on.
Could I ask?
Well, may I continue?
No, I just want to know, have you read the extension contract?
I know it was an extension
No,
contract.
have you read
Have
the-
I read it? No.
Okay, so,
Because nobody said there was anything in it but extending the contract.
It
But
was-
everybody on this council knew.
Well, then
we were
why
giv-
didn't you
wait a minute,
tell
wait a minute.
us?
Everybody knew on this council knew that we were given the permission to the Meadowbrook, F&B, they could actually do it, or they could actually lease it out. We gave them that permission to
That
do
was
that.
not discussed
but
at that
it's-
public meeting.
It's in the contract, Mrs. Phillips.
That's
That's fine, it can be in the
Mr.
contract.
DeLucre
You're
knew it.
assuming that everybody
Everybody
goes
knew it on this
through,
council.
excuse me, Councilman, everybody goes
Mrs.
through the
Phillips.
computer and reads the
Wait a minute,
whole
Mrs.
contract.
Phillips.
That's not true.
Mrs.
Why wouldn't you bring it out?
Hold on, 1 second. And regardless of what you think about this, I just want to make it clear that if you read the contract, it is in the contract, and everybody on council knew that it was in the contract. It's also, has not...
Evidently, everybody didn't know.
We knew it
Well,
it was in the
May I?
contract.
And
And
once
another,
again,
other thing, Mrs. Phillips,
But,
we did not receive any monies. The taxpayers never received any monies for the food and beverage before. So
No, it was a utility. Is it now still a utility?
the food and beverage, we
Self-sustaining?
never received a dime for. before.
Well,
We weren't supposed to. We also
Well, so
didn't get
what-
paid and any payment in lieu of taxes, which was in the original contract
But
also.
I'm just saying, you're saying that we're left with the golf course. That's what it's been for years.
Yes, but self-sustaining. Now, it's already having trouble being self-sustaining, and if you would reduce it to just the golfing part, it's going to be less and less self-sustaining.
But if we were not getting nothing from the
And
food
who
and
pays
beverage
the bill?
before,
The taxpayers.
Whoever, we weren't getting nothing from the food and beverage before, so we're still not getting nothing.
Nobody said we were, sir. It's a part of what
Well, you're
helps to
saying
make
it's
it.
less now. We're getting less.
No, I'm saying
We're
that
paying less.
you will take, it's supposed to be self-sustaining. It no longer is. And so you're taking away the part that could probably produce the more revenue and leaving the taxpayers with the part that's not going to be so productive.
We were never
But the
getting-
whole point is,
we were never
you
getting any
didn't
money from the
discuss,
food and
sir,
beverage.
you did not discuss this at that meeting. Now, what impression does that leave to the public? That you're hiding something?
Well,
Well, the contract
So
was
I-
on, the contract, I believe, was on the website prior to the meeting. The terms of the contract
Well,
were
why
there.
didn't you mention it? Obviously, that was important.
I don't even know if we mentioned it or
It
not.
changed the contract. And
It's-
how does it affect the management, the lease between Meadowbrook and the city regarding food and beverage? How does it change this utility as a legal utility?
And I'll
we never
ask
got it.
Mr. Cerny to answer.
And
as the-
why wasn't, and how?
Can
are
I
the
answer a
public-
question one at a time, Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Can we try and clarify before you draw all your conclusions? Mr. Cerny, does this change the utility setup that the golf course has with the city of Brigantine?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, you've had this management contract in place. It has been renewed a number of times, and the only thing that is different here is that they have the ability to sub out the F&B. I don't know why that would undo everything.
plus we negotiated a lower rent.
Well, you've
per
done
month.
you've done that over a period of years. I believe in 2012, it was at
It
$9,500
was
a
like
month.
$10,000, yes.
And that we were paying them.
Right.
And then there was a subsequent extension that took it from 95 down to 75, and this one is now taking it from 75 down to 6,000.
So we
You
saved
will
$1,500
admit,
a month.
gentlemen, that there was no public discussion of this particular part of that vote.
Mrs.
There
Phillips?
was none.
Once again, the contract was there, but I also have to tell you that I don't think it's any secret to anyone that, and Meadowbrook has said this a number of times, they aren't very excited about operating the food and beverage part of that contract. And in fact, my suggestion, as you know, was months ago that we put the food and beverage out to bid because I think it will enhance the golf course operation if it's open more, if it has some different variety, and there is a component there that people can depend on, because the golf course food and beverage is not open enough right now. It's open when there's golf, it's open when there is a special event, and that was a concern that we talked about. It was a concern of mine that we should have put it out a long time ago as a separate entity. This is a contract that has a 30-day clause that the city of Brigantine can get out of that contract in 30 days. One of the things that we want to do, I believe, as a council, is to put the RFP back out again, because Mr. Glavin said that he would do it again. We're going to
free.
put it back out again for free. And if in fact someone comes back with an offer that is in the interest of the taxpayers, that solves the problems that we have identified going forward, that contract will be we'll be out of that contract in 30 days, and a new operator will be in there. So I don't know if you're aware of that part of the contract either, that there is a 30-day clause that we can get out of the contract if in fact we go in a different direction. So I would tell you to read the contract, and then if you have questions, you could ask them after
That's
you've read
right.
it.
The opportunity to ask the questions was at the meeting at which the vote was taken,
Well, you
which
should-
all of this, no, please, don't use that. It's great to have things on the computer. Not everybody reads that, and you did not emphasize that. You didn't mention it at all. That was deceptive, and that does not give a good impression.
Actually,
And we need to know everything.
Well, Ms.
The
Phillips,
public has a right to know.
They absolutely do.
Well, they didn't get that opportunity and that information, and this raises a lot of issues. While I'm up here, how many minutes do I have, Lynn? Well, quickly. Is the city involved in any way with the property across from the lighthouse on the bay next to the Stranding Center? Because
in-
this has been discussed here in the past, and I'm curious as to see what is the city doing anything concerning that. Pardon me?
The one with the wall around it?
Yes.
Well, I don't know, Mr. Cerny, how much can you disclose about our involvement with the property that we have discussed? Mrs. Phillips, you know that.
Yes, and
Yes.
what would the city be interested in doing with it? And how
Well,
much would it
There was
cost?
an interest for open space, but I'll let Mr. Cerny discuss that if he feels he can.
Well, in terms of the city's interest, that apparently has been expressed. In terms of any position the city is in right now vis-à-vis the acquisition of that property or vis-à-vis the financing of it, they have been executive session items, and that matter is not totally concluded at this point. There may be a point of conclusion sometime in the next 30 days or so, at which point information would be available, but it's not available right now.
Well, I think the public would like to know too, for what purpose the city would be interested in acquiring, if that is what the city wants to do. One other thing concerning the budget, and since the hearing is at your next meeting, there appears to be there is a page missing that has appeared in previous budgets, and it's the analysis of compensated absence liability sheet that's not in there for 2015, and I think it should be. So would you look into that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Phillips.
Actually, Mrs. Phillips, if you don't mind, I share your concerns. I understand where you're coming from and what you're trying to say about, you know, it gives the impression that there wasn't full disclosure. When this issue came up, one of the things that I did look at was that option for a subleasing of that. And I actually became aware tonight, as many council members did, that it was subleased out. But when that came across and I looked at it, I imagined the possibility was there. And maybe I didn't articulate it well, but I did speak to that issue at the council meeting in my comments, because I thought one of the values of having that extension of the lease was to keep things going. And one of the things that I did mention was that one of the things that was brought to my attention as a way to improve the golf course is by improving the clubhouse. And that if you can improve that clubhouse, you can attract more people here, which will bring more rounds and more revenue, which will help. So, and I'll tell you this, like, I apologize if I didn't articulate that well, but that is something that caught my attention, and I did try to bring up and did try to talk about. So it's not that it wasn't put out there, but when I read that, I imagined that the possibility could come about, and I saw the relevance and the connection to what we're trying to do, which is alleviate the burden on the taxpayer. So that's, I'm sorry. But it almost seems like the accusation is that there was a deal in place, and I can't speak for myself, but I feel that the accusation is that I knew of some prior deal that was already in place, which I did not. Like, I did not.
And
Well, Mrs.
let me,
Phillips.
let me respond if
Mrs. Phillips, how was the public cheated? Oh, okay.
yeah. Let me respond to that as well, Ms. Phillips. And I stand behind everything I said before. You know, the responses that I've heard to Ms. Phillips' comments were not responses aimed at the core problem. It wasn't a question of members of council not being aware that the sublease language was in there. We, of course, were aware of that. The issue was, it came to us in the context of a proposal to extend the management contract. And we're clapping ourselves on the back because we reduced it from 7,500 to 6,000, 6,000 which still, I'm waiting to hear what we get for any 1 cent worth of that 6,000. But in the context where it certainly appears to me, given the time that it takes to bring together a deal of the type that apparently has now been struck, no one that was involved in the discussions in this council knew I'll assume, or if they did know, they simply chose not to say, that in fact there was a deal about ready to be struck. Had I had that information, I certainly, even though I voted against the management contract for other good reasons, I certainly would have wanted to have a public discussion about what are the financial terms going forward. And it doesn't matter if it's a 30-day kick-out or not. That's not the issue. The issue is because I certainly didn't know. If others knew, they can say they knew or they could say they didn't know. But in the dark, we voted on an extension of a management agreement where we gave a new right to that management company, which I thought was a theoretical right. It's a contractual right that they could exercise somewhere down the line, but in fact, looks like it was just waiting to be realized. The deal had already been struck. And if anybody on council knew in advance that that was what was going down, that to me is an outrage. You have an obligation, and we have an obligation to conduct our business in public, and it's not enough ever to say, as the mayor just said, well, yeah, everybody knew that Meadowbrook wanted out of food and beverage. Well, that's nice, but we don't operate based on what everybody knows or what we should know or what maybe we should have read somewhere. We have public meetings so that we publicly discuss every aspect of an issue. That's what a public meeting is. It's not when people have private conversations and private agreements and private knowledge of something that is relevant to a matter that comes before council and they choose not to reveal it. That's what I said. That is the outrage of it, and I stand behind that.
Rick, I disagree with your comments and your level of outrage. Once again, this was fully discussed as a contract in executive session. It was clear to me that it was a possibility that it could be subcontracted. My remarks about the food and beverage operation, which is integral to the operation of the golf course, not only for the day-to-day play, but for tournaments. And once again, I don't want to disparage Meadowbrook's effort in the food and beverage area, but you know, they still will need to coordinate all of those activities and work with the vendor to make sure that the coverage is there. But I do want to remind you that you did vote for the extension of that contract several times without ever voicing of what value was Meadowbrook in the past. But we are moving forward. As I said, we are putting the RFP back out again. It will be an RFP with some minimum standards so that we won't waste a lot of time. If we don't get a number that works for the city of Brigantine, then we would have to move in a different direction. But we are moving forward with that RFP process, and hopefully we'll get a good deal for the city of Brigantine as a result of that.
Phil, I'd just like to say one thing about the finances. $7,500 we were paying Meadowbrook before, and they had the food and beverage. We didn't, as the taxpayers or anybody else, did not receive any monies for the food and beverage. If they did a party, they made $3,000, they made $3,000. We didn't get nothing out of that. So let's make it perfectly clear that when we negotiated the contract from $7,500 to $6,000, the city of Brigantine gained $1,500 a month. Plus, we didn't lose anything on the food and beverage. That was their end of the deal. They could go out and have the food and beverage contracted out, whatever they wanted to do at that particular time. I know the vendor they got. I think it's an outstanding vendor. You know, I guess it's bad news it's a Brigantine vendor. You know, to some people, I think it's great news. I think people will come to the golf links because of that vendor's there. And I think there's many more opportunities now. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to turn this thing around. So every 2 minutes, we can't sit there and say, hey, you know, you only saved us $1,500, but you gave away the food and beverage. We never had the food and beverage. We haven't had that in years. So there was no income to the city of Brigantine. So,
Mrs. Phillips, we're not in the public portion.
Well, it was never losing the food and beverage profit to the city. We never received it before. We still don't receive it. We negotiated our contract from $7,500